why Swift for scripting? Aren't there other better alternatives and other languages that might be a better fit? So yeah, is there only Swift out there? Maybe Ruby or Java, Node, Python. Swift is just another option out there, and some of them have even larger communities. So the point is that maybe in your team you have people that they have a background with Ruby. Someone else has more experience with another language. But if you're talking about a mobile team, do you know what we all have in common? We all know Swift. This is a great advantage here, because if you're going to write a tool for your own team, it's much easier to get into and start playing with it and not requiring knowing another language. Buongiorno a tutti, è un piacere essere qui oggi, and that's all my Italian for today. It's my first conference talk abroad, and I'm quite nervous. This reminds me of a story. My dad is an anesthesiologist. Sometimes he goes for a surgery, and the patient is nervous. He asks, is this your first surgery? And the patient says, yeah. And my dad says, it's mine as well. So, in contrast with my dad, this is indeed my first talk, so I hope you enjoy and have a great time. To those who don't know me, my name is Natan. I'm an iOS developer at Monday.com. I do iOS since iPhone OS 3. Objective-C was my first language. I love building apps with beautiful UI animations. And recently, I'm also interested in web server tooling technologies. It's something that I'm passionate about. I love coding in Swift, as I assume most of us here do. And I wrote some articles at codeco.com, and recently I started a website about tooling in Swift. What is tooling? If we have to define tooling, I asked ChatGPT for a great definition, and it told me it's the use of specialized software programs that help developers in various tasks, and they improve efficiency, collaboration, and the overall development process. So you can see that it's building apps to help your own day-to-day to improve your workflows. And how I got into it, in one of my previous jobs, I got there, and there was a repo in a bad shape. It had really tons of branches, and because they didn't delete No, it's just a joke. It wasn't that bad, but they didn't delete branches after merging PRs. So I wrote a script. That script was not in Swift, but my manager came to me and said, "I think we have already a big enough number of developers. And it's going to be good to start a new team of taking care of the infrastructure, and your clients are going to be your colleagues." So I said, I have two options now. Or I can keep drawing JSON as lists and UIKit, regular UIKit stuff that I've been doing for years, or I could take a new challenge, learn new areas, empower my colleagues, and improve our day-to-day. So I said, sure, why not? And before we start, I want to set our goals. The first goal is I want us to learn the different approaches and the different alternatives available when you build tools. The second one, we are going to know the different building blocks, the different packages available out there from the community. And finally, I want us all to enjoy, have a good time, and I want you to leave this room inspired. As Pedro said, if you leave this room and already decide to do some improvement for your own workflow, for your team, then it's a win for me. The agenda. We'll start small. We'll start with a script. Then we will... Oh, sorry. We'll start with why Swift for scripting, why this is a good choice. Then we'll get a little more practical. We'll go with a short script, short tool. Then we will make it a bit more powerful. make it a bit more complex. Then we will advance and make a code generation tool using stencil, for those who know, and the Swift Argument Parser. And then we will add a little touch of GitHub Actions to make this run automated, in an automated way. And we'll try, if we have time, the third part is going to be we'll try to deploy a serverless Swift function. And what I will do without AI, Swift is going to go to the cloud. Yeah, and this is not going to be one live coding. It's going to be 3 live coding sessions. So as I said, the little tool, the little script, then it's going to we go tool, and then a serverless function. And taking Shai's meme, I'm triple scared, and I hope it will all go well now. Take your phones. I prepared a little quiz or warm-up questions, some polls. You could, I would love you joining. So I prepared the command line tool for these questions. You'll see these questions there. You're going to vote, and we'll see the results here. So let's do Swift run. Yeah, let's start with some warm-up questions. The goal of this part is just to see how familiar you are with tooling, with the needs, and how familiar with Swift you all are. So first question. Have you done programming work related to the app, but not the app itself, like not even backend? Have you built tools around? Oh wow, good. Nice. That's better than what I expected. Next question. Have you ever dealt with CI, continuous integration? Okay. Also, so it sounds like this talk is going to be useful for most of us. Have you felt the need to automate tasks for you or for a team? Okay. So also good numbers. We see that even for those who saw the need, maybe you haven't automated, but there was the need. The need was there. And have you played with Swift on the server? Okay, that's fine. And last question. This I expect 100%. Okay, good. So, yeah. So if I have to summarize these questions and wrap them up, is basically we all have the need to automate tasks. We all are very, very familiar with Swift, with CI, and maybe serverless a little bit. Not serverless, serverless. But yeah. So I assume it's content that it's useful for all of us. And starting with the question that I proposed before, why Swift for scripting? Aren't there other better alternatives and other languages that might be a better fit? So yeah, is there only Swift out there? Maybe Ruby or Java, Node, Python. Swift is just another option out there, and some of them have even larger communities. And so the point is that maybe in your team you have people that they have a background with Ruby. Someone else has more experience with another language. But if you're talking about a mobile team, do you know what we all have in common? We all know Swift. And this is a great advantage here, because if you're going to write a tool for your own team, it's much easier to get into and start playing with it, and not requiring knowing another language. I'm not saying that Swift is a silver bullet or is the best option for every team, but in mobile teams, it might have disadvantage. It has disadvantage. And besides this disadvantage, there are other things. It's Swift, right? We work with it every day. It's memory and type safety. We all know foundation APIs, property wrappers. We can use them on tooling as well, as you'll see later on with examples. It has concurrency, which is makes things much easier than they were 3 years ago. And recently, plugins. We're not going to talk about plugins or macros. I already covered them. and also plugins there. They could be a talk by itself. But we see that it has many advantages just by the language, and it feels at home. If you're writing a script and you want to do image handling, you have AppKit available for you. And if you want to do a Mac app for your team, it's Swift UI is there. Don't even need to learn AppKit to its full extent. Swift UI is familiar for most of us. And finally, we can take blocks from your own team, like packages from your own team, and reuse them within your tools and your products, and not to mention the ecosystem that is built on top of the iOS community. And when things started to change, for those of us who've been there with Objective-C, we know that Objective-C is mostly on the Mac, right? You couldn't do anything outside this walled garden from Apple. And with Swift, everything started to change. We not only had support for macOS, but also Linux and also Windows most recently, and even embedded Swift devices. For example, you can write games for Playdate now with Swift. So the first part we're going to talk about is from the live coding part. It's going to be a short script. And what we'll build, let's say we have an app for a nice conference, and you want to test it. You are doing maybe a beta version, or maybe you are doing a feature branch, and you want your colleagues to test it, but you want them to know it's not the production version. So you want a badge. You want to add some badge there. So now we move to live coding. Okay, so I prepared a function here, which is called icon. Not a function, sorry. I prepared a little script with some functions ready. So I'm opening them in this nice app called Runner. Let me make the font a little larger. Okay, so I prepared a few things beforehand. I prepared an extension on NS image that receives a URL and loads an image. I prepared a property that takes an image and converts it into a PNG data. You can see that it's an optional data type because it can fail. And also I prepared a function. This is based on AppKit API that takes a string, an image size, and a text color, and draws the text on this image. Yeah, so you can see here we have this icon. So I'm starting from the assumption that I know the path. So I'm gonna what I need to do is basically load this icon and put the text on it. So the first part, so I'm doing URL. I'm taking the URL. This is a function from File Manager that tells me where I am located in the system now, and I'm appending to it icon.png. So I have the URL. Now, next I need to use my function here from the top. I'm going to create my image. If for some reason I can't load this image, I'm going to exit with an error code which is not 0. And I'm going to print a message. So the icon was not found for some reason, and I'm going to do a clean exit. And now I'm using this NS image initializer, which gives me a rendering block, and on this rendering block I prepared a new image. So the first thing I need to do is to take the original image from here and drawing it. So I'm drawing the original image in direct. Next, I want to add a background. No, sorry, the badge. The background is already done in this part. You can see I do draw swatch on an NS color. So I'm currently passing this hard-coded string, okay? And finally, oops, this goes, and that's it. I return true. This is my image. My rendering block is done. So now I need to convert the badge icon, not the original one, but the one with the badge, to PNG data. Again, if something fails, I'll just exit with 1. And finally, what we need to do, we need to create now the URL for the output and then save it to the file. So I do the same again. I'm not doing path handling here. I assume everything is happening in the same folder. So I have this URL, and I'm going to try to write to the file. How I run this script, I go here, Swift, badger.swift. OK, we already have an error. Wait. Yeah, we have a double parenthesis here. OK, good. Phew. So if we go here, we see badged icon with the text we passed in. Thank you. Now we're going to iterate slowly. We're going to iterate step by step and make this a little better. So you know how sometimes we run scripts, we just do // and the name itself, the name of the file. So to tell the terminal bash to know what type of compiler interpreter it's going to use, I'm going to add the shebang here, saying to use the Swift compiler, and I also need to do I need to add to grant permissions for this file to be run. So I run the chmod command, and now I can do this like this, and it runs like a script. Again, it's going to be still the same result, but if we we can see that the image is generated. So as I said, we're going to improve it step by step. So the next thing is, let's say I wanna make this an interactive tool. So what I should do now? We have here the name. I wanna allow the user to add the name they want. So what should the text batch be? I'm gonna print that message as the script runs, and I'm gonna use the function readline. This is a global function from Swift that it pauses the execution and waits until the user returns a string from terminal. And I'm also making sure that it's not empty. If it is, I'm going to do the same as I did again. Read line. OK, I'll talk about this in a moment. So what's left us? Well, let's just replace this here. And if we run the script now, so let's say Sala 150. And there we go. But still, maybe in a CI environment, you want to get this as an argument. So let's remove this. And I'm going to use the arguments static variable on the command line type. And I'm going to check my arguments. The first argument in a script is the name of the executable or the file itself. And the other elements, they're going to be the arguments. So again, I expect this to have a badge, a text. So if I run now, one second. Yeah, so now this doesn't exist. I'm going to comment this quickly. So it's missing the badge argument. Good. And now I'm going to actually use the argument. And I'm going to do sh24. There we go. And one final thing that might be useful, I'm going to add, if I have the argument -- open, then I want this to open for the user. So let's go back here and do -- open. And it's here. It automatically opened it for me. OK, so now back to the presentation. This was the first one down. One down, two to go. I just want to mention that there's a tool out there called Swift SH. Swift SH it allows you to use dependencies in scripts without explicitly using SPM. Behind the scenes, it actually uses SPM. You declare you install it with brew, and in the beginning of your script you declare Swift SH, and then you can import your dependencies as a comment. You don't even need to have package.swift or anything. So you could import, let's say, path.swift for path handling and Xcode proj for dealing with Xcode projects, and this will save you from writing the whole package if you want smaller tools. So next up, CLI tool. The second part, we saw that dealing with. Before that, I'm gonna tell what we're gonna build. So what we're gonna build now. In many products, we like adding analytic events, right? We want to know what our users are doing, what they are. Let's say if you have a checkout page, you want to know how many products they add before deciding, or stuff like this. And sometimes you have non-technical people declaring them or deciding what they should be. So let's say we want to have an input, and this input is going to be, let's say, a list of analytic events. And as many things as Pedro mentioned in his great talk, input, output, that's basically what many CLI tools do. So in this case, we're going to have a table stored somewhere. You can choose your own. At Monday, we use Monday, but I've done this in other places with different data sources, for example, which they are very convenient and useful for non-technical people, and you convert that into Swift code that you can use right away. And we're going to use, as I mentioned, the argument parser. And as we saw in this example, I was dealing with the arguments manually and based on positioning, which is not ideal, right? Because it can fail if the user switches positions in the CLI. It can go wrong. So sure, the command line arguments is useful, but there is a better option out there. And we all know which is. It's the Swift Argument Parser. It gives us all these property wrappers that already do the heavy lifting for us. And it allows us to use async commands and subcommands in a very easy way. So, and it's not only useful, but it's kind of received the Apple's blessing. It's an official package by Apple. That it's baked into the Swift package manager. You can just write Swift package init --type tool, and it will give you a project with the argument parser as a dependency. And we are also going to use stencil. Stencil is a simple and powerful template language for Swift. You can write templates, and it expands them for you. So let's say you want to write some HTML code. You could write this, rely on an article's parameter to be injected in, and you have this expanded. So for example, if from Swift code I could create an array of articles and inject them with stencil, and have this ready as an output. So, live coding again. So I'm opening the workspace, and I have here this sample project. So I called it analytics generator. You can see that it imports the argument parser. This was prepared automatically by SPM with that command that I showed before. And we have here a few things. We have this stencil template that I already prepared before. You can see it's not too long. I declared it as a resource in my package definition. I also have an analytic event for decoding it, and you'll see soon from where. I have this nice markdown table, and I'm going to use mark codable, which is a dependency to decode and encode arrays and data into, instead of JSON, into markdown tables. And the goal we're going to do is, so basically we have this, the run function is the main function, and we'll do three things here. First, we're going to load the events. Second, we're going to take those events and generate a string. This string is going to be saved into the file as a Swift file. So steps 1 and 2 we're going to do, and the third step is already done. So the first things I need to do now is actually, as I showed before, we had input and output. So we're going to add them as options. So the first one, I'm doing input. It's an option. I'm using the option property wrapper. And the first parameter is name. So I have short and long. So this will allow me to do -- input or -i. And the second one, I'm going to add an optional one. You can see here that I have this output as a hard-coded string. I'm going to delete this because I want to read the one that I received from the argument parser. Again, this is going to allow me to do -- output or -out, but you can see that there's a difference here that I already set a value for it. So if the user doesn't pass any value, it's going to default to this one. Okay, so the first part, let's load this from the file. Again, so you can see the difference here now from the previous script that I was doing current directory path, and instead of relying on a hard-coded string, I'm taking now the input, and I'm going to load this string. Okay, I'm going to do URL file and load string. This is an extension I created here to making things easier. And now we need to decode this data, this string, into my array of analytic events. So I'm using mark decoder, as I said, from that nice package in mark codable. And I'm going to decode them into an array of analytic events. So part 1 is done for now. So we're here. I have my events. What is left now, I need to do generated code. I need to have convert them into a string. And this is the moment I'm going to use stencil. So the first thing, I need to find the template. As I said, I have the template here. It's a resource. How I access a resource from a package I call bundle.module. On iOS, we are used to do bundle.main, right? Sorry. And I'm going to access the resource. If I don't access the resource, I'm now doing a fatal error. This function throws. Ideally, you should throw an error for better output in the CLI. Next, I'm going to prepare this method. I'm creating an environment from stencil. You can see this type is from stencil. And basically, I prepare the environment where my template is going to be rendered. So the template I already loaded. I'm going to load it as a string. Okay, I'm taking it and passing it as a string. I could pass it as a data. There are a few different options. And then the context, what data I'm injecting in. So I mean, for now, I only have one parameter, which is going to be the events. So I could do events, and it's a dictionary. It's a key value dictionary. So I have these events here, which I pass them as parameters here. Okay, now let's try to run the tool. We don't see here any generated file. So if I do Swift run, let's see what's going to give me. Okay, so it's telling me you didn't pass an input. So I'm going to call analytics generator -- input, and I'm passing the events file, which is what I expected to take as an input. I'm not passing an output as we see here. The output is with this square bracket, so it's optional. So if we run again, okay, build complete. We have a generated events file with every event, its raw name, and properties. If I want to pass all the properties, as a, let's say I want to submit them, I don't know, Firebase, you want to use Firebase Analytics, you have this generated just for you here, ready. And the second part I wanted to show is GitHub Actions, right? I told you that we were gonna add the special salt here. So I have this repository up, and let's say I have someone in my team, and they wanna add this another event, right? So wait 1 second. So I wanna show I prepared beforehand a GitHub workflow that basically it is gonna generate our analytic events whenever they're pushed to the main branch, and only when the events markdown file changed, it runs on Linux, checks out the code, and runs the same command that we ran now, and it's gonna commit and push. So this is the workflow we have. Let's say I want to add a new event. Let's say the user purchased tickets. And I'm going to add a nice description. User purchased tickets. Yay. And I'm going to add, let's say, total amount as a parameter. And I'm going to commit changes, update events. In the moment I commit this, if you go to actions here, we should see, yes, there's this task going on. Generate, it's still cute. Why? It's starting the job. It's probably taking the content from the previous run, and I don't have to install Swift. The Linux images already contain Swift. It's checking out the code, ran the command. I prepared this slide. It actually went fast, but I prepared this slide. So sometimes you need to improve times. You don't want to do repetitive work for, let's say, resolving packages or compiling again and again. If you didn't change the tool itself, but only the external content, then if you cache the content, it's not going to have to build again. Or another option, you can precompile your binaries with Swift build -c for configuration release. You want the release mode, and you can embed your own binary into your repo. That's an option. There are other options available, but it's for sure gonna save you some time. And let's see, it already did the checkout. It already pushed. Let's see if we have this commit. So we have 4 commits. This is the commit I did right now of adding the event. And this is the analytic event that was added automatically by GitHub. The final part now, we're going to talk about serverless Vapor a little bit. And we saw this, right? We saw this pattern. This pattern is very common when doing tooling. We have an input and we have an output. And serverless is very useful in some situations like this, when you have atomic little operations that you want to do. So what we're going to do now, let's say there's a conference with an agenda, but this agenda there's too much information on it. We want to take that and draw as a simpler table, maybe easier to read, I don't know. And how we're going to do it, so we use Vapor, which is a very popular, if not the most popular, Swift framework for building web servers or websites. And we're going to use Vercel. Vercel is a cloud platform. You can deploy web apps, and they have CDNs as well. And there's a really nice package, which is Swift Cloud/Vercel on GitHub, that it wraps the Lambda runtime and allows you to deploy serverless functions in a much easier way than the regular Lambda flow. So that's what I'm going to use here for simplicity reasons. And maybe if you want to give it a try, it's really easy. Back again to live coding. This is the last one, and let's hope it all goes smooth. Okay, so you can see that I have a package here. I import here the Swift Cloud Vercel package and mark codable again, because we're gonna now, instead of decoding from a markdown table, we're gonna encode it as a markdown table. And I already prepared some models. Let's say the agenda for decoding the content from the Swift Heroes API. And I also have the model which I'm gonna use to export my data. I'm importing them in one model and exporting them as another model. And you can see here that I have app, a Vapor handler. How the Vercel package does this, they use plugins. So I'm gonna use Swift run -- disable. Forgot the command. 1 second. 1 second. So I want now to start the server locally. So I have actually to do Swift package, disable sandbox, and Vercel dev. This is going to do two things. It's going to start my Vapor server, and it's going to start also a node server that is going to get the requests and proxy them to the Vapor server. So if I run this now, it's going to compile and build everything. For now, I'm going to show you what we have. We have this configure app, which is a Vapor application, and I can declare my routes here. I can declare my own functions. For those who played with Vapor, you can see that this is just Vapor. I can do app get and call my function, my whatever I want, async handlers. And we also now have this function agenda. And this is what we're going to implement in this demo. We're going to implement receiving the request and encoding the agenda into a different string. So if I actually, instead of waiting this here, I have already deployed here. So we have, you can see that the root, I'm not sure you can read it from there, but the root request returns this. And if I try agenda, you can see that it returns an error because I'm aborting it. I'm saying it's not implemented yet because I'm going to do it in live coding. So that's what we're going to do. In the meantime, it's compiling Vapor locally. And yeah, let's try implementing this. So the first thing I have to do is I'm going to access the Swift Heroes API. The Vercel package has a nice function called fetch. This function basically wraps the async HTTP request type, if I'm not wrong, and from here I can just decode it, right, as my type agenda. These are all helpers from the fetch function, and I'm going to convert this into a table, which is this function here. Yeah, you can see also that I use async-await here, which is really nice and helpful. And now I'm going to take this data from the agenda model and I'll convert it into a string. So I'm going to take each entry. So I'm going to map the talks. Talks is a property of agenda. And I'm going to map them into the entry that I'm going to output. So I'm going to try to convert a talk to a table entry. I'm doing the conversion from the received model to the output model, and I have this speakers map, which I provide the function. Speakers map is also a property in agenda. And next, I have to encode this into a markdown table. I'm going to do try mark encoder, encode my entries into a string. You can see that this here returns a string, and this is exactly what we are returning here in our handler. So let's say now it finished compiling the dev server. If I call, no, not this one. Yeah, so here we have this, and if I try agenda, this was before I did my changes, so I have the error. Now, if I stop this and I run my server again, which now should be faster because the dependencies didn't change. And now if I go to agenda, we have the agenda here. We took the input, we did some treatment, and did an output. And I have, in the Vercel starter kit, and also in my sample code, I also prepared a GitHub workflow that deploys automatically to production. So if I commit this, and I have my Vercel projects here, if I commit this, GitHub Actions is gonna, you can see that this, you can see here the domain is actually already on, I deployed beforehand. So you can see that this is running serverless. So our last step, our last demo is done, and I'm relieved they all went smooth as much as possible. Okay, so if you want to explore further, all the sample code, I'm putting them on GitHub. I actually already have them. I forgot to make them public. I'm going to do that as soon as the talk ends. There's going to be all the information I'm going to talk about, so don't worry about taking notes now. If you can just go there, whatever you prefer, it's easier. The projects I use in this talk, just I want to mention them quickly. So the Swift Argument Parser, Stencil, Swift on Vercel based on the Swift AWS Lambda runtime, Swift UI, which is not Swift UI, it's what I used for the terminal thing. It was all done in Swift. Path.swift and pathkit for path handling, and Swift SH if you want to give it a try. A little bit more, just some content on tooling. My own website is still in the beginning. I hope to post useful stuff there. There is Paul Piella, he's here in the crowd somewhere. He posts really great content on tooling as well. And also Christoph is also here. He has a course, and one of the sections of the course is tooling. He provided a code for all of us for 20% off discount on his course. SPM plugins, I didn't mention them, but they are definitely useful for tooling. And there are tons of projects to learn from. Twist, Xcode Proj, Xcode Gen for generating, which was the second project was inspired on in this talk. Swift Gen also. No, sorry, I got confused. Xcode Gen is also an Xcode generation tool. Swift Gen generates code based on images, assets, and more. And finally, there's the Swift Tools Core package, which is deprecated by Apple because parts of it went into SPM itself, so they deprecated, but there's tons of interesting code there. I hope you enjoyed. Grazie mille, and thanks for being with me today.